Okay, so once again, good day. So individuals and organizations have reaped now many benefits from information system, but they have also raised concerns about social and ethical issues. Some of the major social and ethical concerns about information system, privacy and security, the digital divide is the gap of between those who have access the technology and those who do not. No? Intellectual property rights, cybercrime, concerns about employee monitoring, privacy, and surveillance, has arisen as a result of the use of information system in the workplace. The production, use, and disposal of information systems and electronic devices have significant environmental impact. Electronic waste disposal can pollute the environment and pose health risks. Employers must strike a balance between the need to monitor and manage employee performance and rights of employees to privacy and autonomy. Cyber criminals use computer networks to steal personal and financial information, launch attacks on critical infrastructure, and engage in other illegal activities. And of course, the intellectual property rights, the ease with which digital information can be copied and distributed raises concerns about intellectual property rights. Unauthorized use of intellectual property or software piracy can result in significant financial losses for businesses and individuals. And to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter.
Good morning, fellow classmates and Dean Mello. We are from Group 4. We'll be discussing Chapter 4, Social and Ethical Concerns Relating to Information Systems. I am Engineer Ismael Atienza. I will be discussing the first part. Later on, Ms. Mary Grace Hermano will do the second part. The learning objectives. What political, social, and ethical challenges are brought up by information system? What specific conduct rules can be utilized to direct moral choices? Why do the internet and modern information systems technology make it harder to safeguard people's privacy and intellectual property? What effects do information systems have on daily life? In businesses, the information systems department played a significant role on cases of poor moral and legal judgment. The information systems were concealed from the general public in the hopeless belief that it would go undiscovered. Ethics refers to moral standards that people employ to govern their behavior as free moral agents while making decisions. The information systems raise new ethical questions because they create opportunities for intense social change, threatening existing distribution of power, money, rights, and obligation. Political, social, and ethical issues are interconnected. The figure presented illustrates the connections. Introduction of new technology has a ripple effect in the current equilibrium, creating new ethical, social, and political issues that must be dealt with on individual, social, political levels. Both social and political institutions require time before developing new behaviors, rules, and laws. For example, a society as a calm pond, the information technology as a rock dropped in pond, creating ripples of new situations not covered by previous laws. The social and political institutions cannot respond overnight to these ripples. It may take years to build manners, expectations, social responsibilities, politically correct attitudes, or accepted rules. The model can be used to show how political and ethical issues interact. The following moral dimensions are among the main ethical, social, and political challenges brought by information systems. Rights and obligations regarding information. What privacy rights do people and organizations have with regard to one another? What can they safeguard? For example, website privacy, spyware, cookies. Then, like legal obligations and property rights. In a digital culture where it is hard to track down and account for ownership and when it is simple to ignore such property rights, how can traditional intellectual property right be protected? For example, trade secret, copyright, and patent law. Control and accountability. Who will be held responsible and accountable for the damage done to property rights and individual and collect information rights? Next is system performance. What requirements for data and system quality should we make in order to safeguard people's rights and the security of example, security of society, that is computer crime, spam, or junk mail. Lastly is the life quality. What principles ought to be upheld in a society that values information and knowledge? Which institutions should we defend against abuse? Which cultural beliefs and customs do the new information technology support? Sample are repetitive stress injury, computer vision syndrome. That is an eye strain condition related to computer display screen use. Information technology came before ethical concerns. However, information technology has increased ethical problems, stressed current social structures, and rendered some laws completely or significantly ineffective. These ethical strains are cased by these major technical trends. Computing power doubles every 18 months. More organizations depend on computer systems for critical operations. Data storage costs rapidly decline. Organizations can easily maintain detailed databases on individuals. Data analysis advances. Companies can analyze vast quantities of data gathered on individuals to develop detailed profiles of individual behavior. Network advances. Copying of data from one location to another and accessing personal data from remote locations are much easier. While mobile device growth impact is an individual's cell phones may be tracked without user consent knowledge.
Kakainin mo ba yung chicken o akin na lang? Ha?
Uh,
Init ko lang.
Non-obvious relationship awareness, or we call NORA, is a new data analysis technique which can take information about people from disparate sources such as employment applications, telephone records, customer listings, and wanted lists, and correlate this relationship to find obscure hidden connections that might help identify criminals or terrorists. Individuals who are accountable for the results of their actions make ethical decisions. Responsibility is accepting the potential costs, duties, and obligations for decisions. Accountability is mechanism for identifying responsible parties, while liability permits individuals or firms to recover damages done to them. Lastly is due process, which has laws well known and understood with an ability to appeal to higher authorities. How should we evaluate a scenario which it seems to bring ethical dilemma? The five-step process can be used. First is clearly identify and state the facts. Find out who, where, and when, and how did they what to whom. Given information should be clarified so that facts aid in defining the solution. Getting the opposing parties in an ethical problem to agree on the facts also helps. Secondly, specify the issue at hand and point out the higher order values at stake, wherein political, social, and ethical challenges constantly make reference to higher ideals, such as freedom, privacy, property protection, and others. These are common assertions made by disputing parties. An ethical problem typically involves two polar opposite roads of behavior that uphold honorable beliefs. Third, list the parties involved. The stakeholders or participants in the game who are invested in the situation have interest in the results and typically have strong opinions. They are present in every ethical, social, political issue. Fourth, list the choices you can make that are reasonable. It's possible that no alternative will fulfill every interest, but some options perform better than others. Last is determine any possible repercussions of your choices. Although maybe morally sound, certain decisions can be terrible from other perspective. Other options might be effective in one situation but fail in other comparable situations. Always consider what if I regularly chose this option over time. After finishing the investigation and before making a choice, the following moral guidelines or rules can be applied to guide the decision making. The golden rule: thinking about fairness in decision making by putting oneself in the shoe of others and considering yourself as target of the choice. Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative. If the course of conduct is wrong for any individual, it is wrong for everyone. We consider the version: would the organization or society survive if everyone did this? The Descartes principle or slippery slope rule: if an activity cannot be performed repeatedly, it should not be performed at all. The slippery slope rule follows: if a behavior is continued, it may first result in a tiny alteration that is acceptable, but eventually bring about unacceptable modifications. The utilitarian principle. The rule presupposes that we can rank order values and comprehend the effects of different actions. The risk aversion principle. Take the action that produces the least harm or potential cost. Example is building a nuclear power plant in an urban location is example of an activity with extremely high failure cost of very low chance. Avoid acts with high failure cost and focus more with moderate to high risk of failure. And the ethical or no free lunch rule is assumed that virtually all tangible and intangible objects are owned by someone unless there is a specific declaration otherwise. With unique claims to expertise, wisdom, and respect, groups of people who identify as professionals have distinct responsibilities and rights. These associations, such as American Medical Association, American Bar Association, or Association for Computing Machinery. By establishing entrance requirements and competence, these professional organizations assume responsibility for the partial regulation of their respective professions. By signing codes of ethics, professions pledge to govern themselves in society's best interest. Information systems are pitted on one set of interests against another. For example, a firm may claim that it has the right to use information technologies to boost efficiency and cut back on employees in order to control expense and maintain profitability. Information rights or privacy and freedom in internet change. Privacy is the claim of individuals to be left alone, free from surveillance or interference from other individuals, organizations, or state. Claim to be able to control information about yourself. In the United States, privacy is protected by the First Amendment, which is freedom of speech and association. Fourth Amendment, a reasonable search and seizure, and additional federal statutes such as Privacy Act of 1974. The Fair Information Practices is a set of principles governing the collection of use information used to drive changes in privacy legislation. The Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which is SCOPA, which was established by U.S. Congress in July 1998 and mandates that websites must acquire parental consent before collecting data on children under the age of 13 on their users. While medical records privacy is protected by the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, which went into effect on April 14, 2003. The law grants patient access to their personal medical records as well as power to consult to the use or disclosure of their protected health information. Federal Trade Commission's Fair Information Practice Principles are guidelines that represent widely accepted concepts concerning fair information practice. Notice awareness. Consumers should be given notice of an entity's information practices before any personal information is collected from them. Choice consent. Choice and consent in an online information gathering sense means giving consumers options to control how their data is used. Specifically, choice relates to secondary uses of information beyond the immediate needs of the information collector to complete the consumer's transaction. The two typical types of choice models are opt-in or opt-out. The opt-in method requires that consumers affirmatively give permission sorry. Affirmatively give permission for their information to be used for other purposes. Without the consumer taking these affirmative steps in an opt-in system, the information gatherer assumes that it cannot use the information for any other purpose. The opt-out method requires consumers to affirmatively decline permissions for other uses. With the consumer taking these affirmative steps in an opt-out system, the information gatherer assumes that it can use the consumer's information for other purposes. Each of these systems can be designed to allow an individual consumer to tailor the information gatherer's use of the information to fit their preferences by checking boxes to grant or deny permission for specific purposes rather than using a simple all or nothing method. Access participation. Access as defined in the Fair Information Practice Principle includes not only a consumer's ability to view the data collected, but also to verify and contest its accuracy. This access must be inexpensive and timely in order to be useful to the consumer. Integrity security. Information collectors should ensure that the data they collect is accurate and secure. They can improve the integrity of data by cross-referencing it with only reputable databases and by providing access for the consumer to verify it. Information collectors can keep their data secure by protecting against both internal and external security threats. They can limit access within their company to only necessary employees to protect against internal threats, and they can use encryption and other computer-based security systems to stop outside threats. Enforcement. In order to ensure that companies follow the Fair Information Practice principles, there must be enforcement measures. The FTC identified three types of enforcement measures: self-regulation by the information collector or an appointed regulatory body, private remedies that give civil causes of action for individuals whose information has been misused to sue violators, and government enforcement that can include civil and criminal penalties levied by the government. The European Directive on Data Protection, this requires companies to inform people when they collect information about them and disclose how it will be stored in use. Requires informed consent of the customer. An EU member nation cannot transfer personal data to countries with no similar privacy protection. The US Department of Commerce designed a safe harbor net framework, which is self-regulating policy to meet objectives of government legislation without involving government regulation or enforcement. Challenges to privacy on the internet. Cookies is a tiny files downloaded by website to visitors' hard drive to help identify visitors' browser and track visits to site. This is how cookies identify web visitors. The web server reads the user's web browser and determines the operating system, browser name, version number, internet address, and other information. Next, the server transmits a tiny text file with user identification information called a cookie, which the user's browser receives and stores on the user's computer. Next is when the user returns to the website, the server requests the contents of any cookie it deposited previously in the user's computer. Lastly is the web server reads the cookie, identifies the visitors, and calls up data on the user. Other challenges is the web beacons. These are tiny graphics embedded in emails and web pages. Monitors reading email or visiting site. Another spyware is a surreptitiously installed on user's computer and may transmit user's keystrokes or display unwanted ads. Next is the Google services and behavioral targeting. The United States allows businesses to gather transactions information and use this for other marketing purposes. Opt-out versus opt-in model, and then the online industry promotes self-regulation over privacy legislation. Technical solutions, the solutions include email encryption, anonymity tools, anti-spyware tools. Technical solutions have failed to protect users from being tracked from one site to another. This is on the do not track options. The do not track settings are available in several browsers. This is to request websites not to track their online activity. The feature is available or supported by Internet Explorer 9 and Mozilla Firefox. There is presently no regulation requiring websites to halt tracking, and there is no agreement among online advertising industry on how to handle do not track requests. This is my reference, and thank you. The second part will be presented by Ms. Mary Grace Hermano. Thank you.
Good morning, Sir Dean Melo and classmates. I will be reporting the continuation of Chapter 4, Social and Ethical Concerns Relating to Information System. Sir Ismael, pwede po ba pa-share nung PPT ko? Medyo may technical problem po sa computer.
Sige, ma'am.
Next po. Modern information systems have posed serious legal and social challenges to the protection of private intellectual property. Intellectual property is an intangible property made by people or businesses. Due to the ease with which computerized material may be transferred on networks or replicated, information technology has made it challenging to protect intellectual property. So trade secrets, copyrights, and patent laws, these three legal traditions that provide various protection for intellectual property. Next po. The first one is trade secrets. The first sample of intellectual property. These are the rights on confidential information which may be sold or licensed. A formula, device, pattern, or compilation of data used for business purposes can be categorized as a trade secret. Trade secret protection differ from state to state. Software can be classified as a trade secret if it has novel or distinctive components, processes, or compilation. The real ideas contained in a work product are protected under trade secret legislation. To make this claim, the creator or owner must take care to enforce non-disclosure agreements or NDA on their workers and clients and to keep the secret from becoming known to the public. Next po. Copyright. Copyright is a legal privilege that guards intellectual property creators from having their work copied for any reason for the duration of their lives and an extra 70 years after their death. For workers owned by corporation, copyright protection is in effect for 95 years following the the date of creation. Books, magazine, lectures, plays, musical composition, drawings, maps, photographs, motion pictures, and periodicals all now have copyright protections, thanks to legislation passed by the Congress. Copyright rules aim to promote creativity and authorship. The Copyright Office started registering software programs in the middle of 1960s, and in 1980s, Congress passed the Computer Software Copyright Act, which outlines the buyer's right to use the software, while the creator retains legal title and clearly protects software program code and copies of the original sold in the commerce. Next po. The patent is an exclusive right that allows the inventors to exclude others from making, using, or selling the product of his invention during the life of the patent. A patent gives the owner a 20-year exclusive monopoly over the concept behind an invention. The purpose of the patent law as intended by the Congress is to protect novel machine, device, or method inventors from infringement and to enable widespread application of the innovation by making clear schematics available to those seeking to apply the concept under license from the patent owner. Originality, uniqueness, and invention are the three main ideas of patent law. Until 1981 Supreme Court judgment holding that computer programs might be a component of a patentable process, the Patent Office did not usually accept application for software patents. The benefit of a patent is that it gives a monopoly on the fundamental principle and concept of software. Next po. Intellectual property rights, issues, and challenges. Modern information technology, particularly software, provides serious difficulties for current intellectual property system, and as a result, raise important ethical, social, and political dilemmas. The spread of network, such as internet, has made intellectual property protection even more challenging before the widespread usage of networks. Distribution was hampered by the need to store copies of software, books, magazine, articles, or film on physical mediums such as paper, computer disk, or videotape. Information may be duplicated and spread more broadly using networks. According to the International Data Corporation and the Business Software Alliance 9th Annual Study on Global Software Piracy, the rate of the software theft has increased from 42% in 2011. Additionally, some copyright protection is offered by the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or the DMCA of 1998. The DMCA put into effect a World Intellectual Property Organization treaty that makes it unlawful to go beyond the protected content's technological protection. Next, please. Control, liability, and accountability. New information technologies are challenging existing liability laws and social norms for holding people and institutions accountable, along with privacy and property laws, who should be held responsible and consequently held liable if a person is hurt by a device that is partially controlled by a software. These queries might be clarified by some example from the real world. Next po. Problems with computer-related liability. Why not consider software as a service? Customers of a bank are given access to ATMs as a service. Customers will experience annoyance and even suffer financial harm if they are unable to access their funds in a timely manner should this service fail. Should software developers and owners of flawed financial accounting simulation or marketing system be given liability protection as well? Given the importance of a software in a daily life, there is a good probability that liability law will be expanded to cover software, even if the software only offers an information service. Some examples of these are using of online payment transactions and mobile app for banks. Bank transfers may not be reflected sometimes, and technical issues may arise in which you may not check your account right away. So these are the current issues that we're facing with the use of technology. Next. system quality, system errors, and data quality. Poor input data quality, hardware breakdowns due to natural or other causes, and software flaws and mistakes are the three main causes of poor system performance. The reason why it is impossible to achieve zero flaws in a software code of any complexity, and why it is impossible to gauge how critical the remaining bugs. As a result, there is a technological barrier to creating software that is perfect, and users need to be informed of the possibility of a disastrous failure. Data quality issues are by far the most frequent cause of business system failure, despite the fact that press coverage of software defects and facility disaster is likely to be extensive. Next po. Equity, access, and boundaries in quality of life. The negative social consequences of adopting information technology and systems are starting to rise. However, these unfavorable effects have the potential to be very damaging to people, societies, and political systems. Despite the benefits they provide, computers and information technology have potential to undermine important aspects of our culture and civilization. Next po. Rapidity of change, reduced response time to competition. Markets on a national and international scale are now far more effective because to information system. The customary societal buffers that gave businesses several years to adapt to competition have been diminished by today's more effective global marketplace. The downside of time-based competition is that your employer might not have enough time to respond to international rivals and could go out of business in a year, costing you your job. We run the risk of becoming an just-in-time society with just-in-time workplaces, families, and vacations, as well as just-in-time jobs. Next po. Maintaining boundaries, family, work, and leisure. Since information technology is becoming uh, increasingly adapting in the current situation, some of the millennials have been engaged to more technological aspects in life, and it hinders their social life. It is truly becoming a reality, ubiquitous computing, telecommuting, nomad computing, mobile computing, and do anything anywhere computing environment are all at risk. The conventional division between job, family, and simple pleasure have weakened. The term work now includes commute time, vacation time, and free time in addition to the 8-hour workday. These tight social bonds are threatened even by free time spent online. Even for enjoyment or recreation, prolonged internet use keeps people away from their loved ones. It can result in detrimental antisocial conduct, such as the recent rise in cyberbullying among middle school and teenage kids. Next po. Dependence and vulnerability. Our modern corporation, governments, educational institutions, and nonprofit organizations like churches rely heavily on the information technology, making them extremely susceptible if this system malfunction. For instance, educational software is used and relied upon more and more in the secondary school. Frequently, test results are kept off campus. There is no substitute educational framework or body of knowledge that could replace this system if they were to fail. Demands for national standard and possibly governmental control will likely to be made due to lack of standards and the importance of some system application. Next po. Computer crime and abuse. Computers and other new technologies such as them open up new changes for criminal activity by producing new valuable things to steal, new methods for doing so, and new means to hurt other people. The commission of illegal acts using a computer or against a computer system is known as a computer crime. The Internet Crime Complaint Center, or the IC3, is a collaboration between the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI, and the National White Collar Crime Center is one resource for information. The IC3 data can be used to determine the kinds of e-commerce offenses that customers are more likely to report. Computer abuse is the use of computer to commit action that might not against the law but are nevertheless viewed as unethical. Spamming has become a significant issue for both people and organizations due to the widespread use of the internet and email. Spam is a junk email that is sent to a large group of internet users who have not indicated any interest in the good or service being advertised by a company or an individual. One good example of which is to develop trainings to detect spam or phishing or other tech crimes. Our company has adopted limiting the risk of spam mails and phishing threats. We often receive emails from outside sources. Those emails that we receive are threats to internal information of our company. So the next one is employment, trickle down technology, and reengineering job loss. So information system community frequently hails reengineering work as a major advantage of new IT. According to The Economist, there's a chance that society will be governed by small high-tech elite of corporate professionals in a nation of permanently unemployed, according to Rick Finn of 1993. Some economists have raised new concern about the threat that information and computer technology pose to middle-class, white-collar occupation in 2011. Some economists are also significantly more upbeat about the possibility of job losses than others. They think that by removing intelligent, educated employees from the engineered position, these workers will move on to better position in rapidly expanding industries. Example of which applies also to my current role as an IT auditor. So we develop or automate system to enable users to minimize their tasks. So we develop robotics, or we develop robots particularly and apply it to production so that the bulk transactions or any tasks that the employees are doing, it will be minimized. So it usually doesn't prevent the the hiring process or procedures, but it usually takes a manpower also to check the accuracy of the robots. Next po. Equity and access, increasing racial and social class cleavages. Despite the fact that computer ownership and internet access have increased dramatically over the past 5 years, several studies have indicated that poor and minority groups in the US are less likely to have computers or online access. Higher income families in each ethnic groups are still more likely to have access to the internet and home computers than lower income families in the same group. Despite the gap closing, schools in high poverty locations are less likely to have computers, high quality instructional technology programs, or internet connection available for their kids, creating a comparable digital divide. If the digital divide is not closed, there could be a huge number of information have-nots who are computer illiterate and unskilled versus a society of information haves who are computer literate and skilled. Public interest groups seeks to close this digital divide by ensuring that almost everyone has access to digital information services such as internet in a similar manner on to how basic telephone service is currently provided. Next po. Lastly, I will report the health risks associated with the information technology. The first one is the repetitive stress injury. Repetitive stress injury is the most prevalent occupational ailment. For example, tennis, for example, of hundreds of repetition with low impact loads can cause muscle groups to be strained by repetitive motion, which can lead to RSI. I also have experienced this when I used to bake pastries. So, in which you have repetitive motions in the palm, uh, also such as working at computer keyboards. Computer keyboards are the main causes of RSI. Also, the carpal tunnel syndrome, in which pressure on the median nerve through the bony structure of the wrist known as the carpal tunnel results in pain. In the most prevalent type of the RSI associated with the computers, a word processor can make up to 23,000 keystrokes in a single shift, which contributes to the strain. Carpal tunnel syndrome includes tingling, numbness, shooting pain, and difficulty grasping. The carpal tunnel syndrome has been identified in millions of people who work. RSI can be prevented through proper monitor stands, footrest, and workstation design that promotes neutral wrist position. All help to improve posture and lessen the risk of repetitive strain injury. Regular relaxation periods and employee duty rotation should be used to support this action. Computers can also lead to other occupational disease besides the RSI. So next, the second one is the computer vision syndrome. This refers to any eye strain problem associated to display screen used in desktop computers, laptops, e-readers, smartphones, and handheld video games. About 90% of individuals who spend 3 hours or more every day in front of the computer are impacted by CVS, according to Beck of 2010. Headaches, impaired vision, and dry and itchy eyes are the common symptoms of the CVS. Next po. Lastly, the technostress or stress brought on by using a computer is the most recent illness associated with computers. Anger, animosity towards people, irritability, and exhaustion are few of its symptoms. Experts assert that people who spend a lot of time around computers develop the expectation that people are institution. An institution will act impersonally and instantly without showing any emotion. Along with these illnesses, computer technology may be altering our cognitive processes or at the very least impairing our ability to reason and solve problems. Some experts fear it is also making it harder for people to concentrate and think effectively. Next po. So here is the reference of my report, The Advanced Management Information System by Dean Marmelo Abante and Ms. Alice Lacorte and Sir Gerald Gongora. Thank you po for listening.
Okay, so that was chapter
Chapter 4 po.
chapter 4. Okay. So information technology is bringing about changes for which no laws or rules of acceptable behavior have yet been developed. Now, increasing computing power, storage and network capabilities, including the internet, broaden and magnify the reach and impact of individual in organizational actions. So the ease and anonymity with which information is now communicated, copied, and manipulated in online environments possess new challenges to privacy and intellectual property protection. And the most important ethical, social, and political issues raised by information system are those concerning information rights and obligations, property rights and obligations, accountability and control, system quality, and quality of life. The golden rule of Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative, Descartes' rule of change, the utilitarian principle, the risk aversion principle, and the ethical no free lunch rules are 6 ethical principles for judging behavior. Now, this principle should be applied in tandem with an ethical analysis. Modern data storage and analysis technology allows businesses to easily collect personal data about individuals from a variety of sources and analyze this data to create the detailed electronic profiles of individuals and even their behaviors. No? So data transmission over the internet can be monitored at numerous points. Cookies and other web monitoring tools closely track website visitors' activities. Not all websites have strict privacy policies, and they do not always allow for informed consent to the use of personal information because digital material can be easily copied and transmitted to many different locations simultaneously over the internet. And traditional copyright laws are insufficient to protect against software privacy. Although computer systems have increased efficiency and they have had some negative consequences. Individuals and organizations can suffer serious consequences as a result of computer errors. Poor data quality is also to blame for business disruptions and losses. Now, when computers replace workers or tasks become obsolete in re-engineered business processes, jobs may be lost. So the ability to own and use a computer may be exacerbating socioeconomic disparities between different racial and social groups. So the widespread use of computer increases the potential for computer crime and abuse, and computer can also cause health issues such as repetitive strain injury, computer vision syndrome, and technostress. Individuals and organizations have reaped many benefits from information system. So addressing social and ethical issues concerning information system necessitates a collaborative efforts on the part of individuals, organizations, and governments. Organization must develop policies and procedures that protect personal data privacy and security, respect intellectual property rights, and promote environmentally responsible practices. Government must enact laws and regulations that protect the rights of individuals and hold organizations accountable for their actions. Individuals must understand the social and ethical implications of using information system and take precautions to protect their privacy and security. So I think that's it for topic number 4.